After my wife's funeral, my son handed me a rusted lockbox and said, "Dad, Mom kept junk her whole life. Just toss it." But I didn't toss it. I took it to First Pacific Credit Union, and the branch manager turned white. She picked up the phone and said, "Sir, please don't leave. I need to call the police." That's when I realized my wife had been fighting a war I never knew about, and she left me the weapons to finish it. Thanks for being here. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And be honest with me. Would you trust your own son with $2.5 million? Quick note, this story contains dramatized elements for awareness and reflection. Names and locations have been changed, but the message is real. The last thing my wife said to me wasn't, "I love you." It was, "Don't let him take it." Robert. I didn't understand. I thought the morphine was talking. I held her hand in that hospice room in Southeast Portland while the rain hit the window, and I said, "Nobody's taking anything. Maggie, rest now." She squeezed my fingers so hard it hurt. Her eyes were clear, sharper than they'd been in weeks. "Promise me," she whispered. "Promise me, you'll open the box." I promised, and then she closed her eyes. And the room got quiet. And just like that, 41 years of marriage ended on a Tuesday afternoon in October. The memorial was at Selwood Community Chapel. Small place, old wood, the kind of church that smells like candles and rain. Margaret Ann Aldridge, born 1965, died 2025, 60 years old. Pancreatic cancer took her in 7 months. She was a nurse for 33 years at Providence, Portland. She cared for other people's families her whole life. I don't think enough people cared for her. My son Kyle stood at the front of the chapel looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Tailored black suit, silk tie, shoes that probably cost more than my first car. He was 36 years old and already had the kind of confidence that fills a room. He shook hands with everyone, remembered names, made widows smile. He was good at that, making people feel seen. My daughter Ellie stood near the back wall by herself. She wore a black dress she'd probably had since college, her brown hair pulled into a braid. She looked tired. She looked like she'd been tired for years. A few people spoke to her, but she kept glancing at me across the room like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. After the service, a woman I didn't recognize approached me. Mid-50s, gray coat, glasses on a chain. "Mr. Aldridge?" She handed me a canvas tote bag. "My name is Ruth Oshiro. I was a colleague of Margaret's at Providence. She asked me to give this to you after the service. Not before." She was very specific. Inside the bag was a rusted metal lockbox, the kind you'd buy at a hardware store for $15. Old, dented, with a small padlock on the front, and taped to the top was an envelope with my name in Maggie's handwriting. "What's in it?" Kyle appeared at my elbow, looking down at the box with mild amusement. "Mom's treasure chest?" He laughed. "Not mean. Not quite, but close enough. Dad, you know Mom. She kept every receipt, every coupon, every scrap of paper. Whatever's in there is probably expired coupons and old birthday cards." He took the box from my hands, turned it over, shook it. Something shifted inside. "See? Junk. Want me to toss it for you? We can go through it later if you really want. But honestly, Dad, Mom never had anything worth locking up." He was already walking toward the trash can near the chapel kitchen. "Kyle, give it back." He stopped, turned around, smiled that easy smile. "Of course. Sorry, Dad. Just trying to help." He set it on the table next to the guest book. But I saw something in his eyes. Something cold. Something I didn't recognize. Or maybe something I'd been refusing to recognize for years. Later, at the house, people filled the living room with casseroles and sympathy. I set the lockbox on the kitchen counter and went out to the back porch for air. Through the window, I watched Kyle. He was alone in the kitchen. He picked up the lockbox, examined the padlock, then looked around. The room was empty. He slid the box under his jacket and walked toward the garage door. But he didn't make it. Ellie came in from the hallway. She saw him. Their eyes met. Kyle froze. "What are you doing with that?" Ellie's voice was quiet but firm. "Nothing. Just moving it out of the way." "Put it back." They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Kyle set the box on the counter, straightened his jacket, and walked out the front door. Through the window, I saw a woman waiting for him in a silver SUV parked across the street. Tall, blonde, expensive-looking. Vanessa, his fiancée. He leaned into the passenger window and said something. She shook her head. He said something else. Then they both looked at the house. I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m, I sat at the kitchen table with the lockbox in front of me. The padlock was small, cheap. I could have cut it with bolt cutters, but I didn't want to force anything Maggie had sealed. I opened the envelope taped to the lid instead. "Robert, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm sorry for every cold night, every silence, every time I pulled away when you reached for me. I wasn't pulling away from you. I was pulling away from the truth because I was afraid you'd never believe it. Inside this box is a key. Take it to First Pacific Credit Union on Hawthorne. Ask for Linda Torres, the branch manager. No one else. Don't tell Kyle. Don't tell anyone. Trust yourself. I love you. I always have. Even when it didn't look like it. Maggie." My hands shook. I read it again. Don't tell Kyle. The padlock had a 3-digit combination. I tried Maggie's birthday. Nothing. Our anniversary. Nothing. Then I tried Ellie's birthday. 061996. It clicked open. Inside the box was a single key, a safe deposit box key, and underneath it, a folded piece of paper. A printout from First Pacific Credit Union, dated 2 weeks before Maggie died. Account summary, Margaret Ann Aldridge, and at the bottom, 6 lines in red type. Unauthorized signature detected. January 2024. Unauthorized transfer attempt. March 2024. Unauthorized title inquiry. June 2024. Unauthorized beneficiary change attempt. September 2024. Unauthorized withdrawal attempt. November 2024. Unauthorized power of attorney filing. January 2025. 6 times. Someone had tried to access Maggie's accounts 6 times in 1 year, and Maggie had kept the evidence locked in a box she hid from everyone except a colleague at work. First Pacific Credit Union didn't open until 9. I was there at 8:15, standing in the rain on Hawthorne Boulevard like a man waiting for a verdict. When they unlocked the doors, I walked straight to the counter. I need to see Linda Torres. The teller, a young man with careful eyes, looked at me, then at the key I'd placed on the counter. 1 moment. 2 minutes later, a woman emerged from a back office. Late 40s, dark hair, reading glasses pushed up on her head. She walked toward me with the kind of careful steadiness that told me she already knew who I was, Mr. Aldridge. She extended her hand. "I'm Linda Torres. I've been expecting you. Please come with me." Her office was small, neat, with a window overlooking the parking lot. 34 years. She opened her first account here in 1991. Linda sat behind her desk and began typing. "What I'm about to show you may be difficult." She turned the monitor toward me. Account holder, Margaret Ann Aldridge. Joint holder added March 2022, Robert Aldridge. Account type, investment portfolio, and savings. Current combined value, $2,418,611.42. I stared at the number until the room tilted. "That's not possible." "It's very possible." Linda's voice was gentle. "Your wife opened a savings account in 1991 with an initial deposit of $200. She contributed between $100 and $300 every month for 34 years, but in 2003, she also began purchasing rental properties through a self-directed investment account linked to this institution. Rental properties? 4 properties. 2 duplexes in Selwood, a small apartment building in Milwaukee, and a single-family rental in St. John's. All purchased below market value. All generating steady rental income for over 20 years. Your wife managed them herself, handled maintenance, collected rent, reinvested the profits. She used a property management LLC registered under her maiden name, Margaret Novak. I couldn't speak. Maggie, my wife who clipped coupons, who drove a 12-year-old Honda, who worked double shifts at the hospital so we could afford Ellie's college tuition. She owned 4 properties. She had $2.5 million, and she never said a word. 3 years ago, Linda continued, she added you as joint holder on everything. She told me, if something happens to me, Robert needs immediate access. No probate, no delays, no interference. Interference? From who? Linda opened a desk drawer and pulled out a thick manila folder. From your son. She slid it across the desk. Inside were photocopies of documents, power of attorney forms with Maggie's signature, except the signatures didn't match. Transfer requests, beneficiary change forms, title inquiry applications, all bearing the name Kyle Aldridge, and all flagged by the credit union's fraud detection system. 6 attempts in 12 months, Linda said. Each time, the documents were forged. The signatures were close, but not exact. Our system caught every one. She pulled out another set of papers, printouts from security cameras, black and white, grainy but unmistakable. Kyle at the counter. January 2024. Kyle again in March. Kyle in June. Different clothes each time. Same, confident smile. And in 3 of the photos, a woman stood beside him. Tall, blonde. Vanessa. Your wife was notified after each attempt. Every time, she declined to press charges. Linda's voice was careful now. She told me she was handling it. She asked me to keep records of everything. Photographs, documents, timestamps. She said, when Robert comes, give him all of it. He'll know what to do. I set the photos down. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. There's more, Linda said. The safe deposit box. She stood up. Would you like to open it? The vault room was cold and quiet. The box was large, the biggest size they offered. Linda left me alone with it. I turned the key. Inside were 4 manila envelopes, each labeled in Maggie's handwriting. The first was labeled journals. 5 composition notebooks, the kind kids use in school. I opened the first one. March 2020. Maggie's neat handwriting. Today I found a transfer request in the recycling bin. My signature. My account number. But not my handwriting. Kyle was here for dinner last night. He asked to use the bathroom and was gone for 20 minutes. I checked the office afterward. My file cabinet was open. I can't tell Robert. He idolizes Kyle. He calls him the golden one. If I tell him without proof, he'll think I'm confused, or jealous, or losing my mind. So I'm going to write everything down. I read for 2 hours. 5 years of entries. 5 years of my wife watching our son strip mine our family while I stood by and saw nothing. She documented every forged document, every lie Kyle told me about his booming real estate business that was actually failing, every dollar he borrowed and never repaid, $185,000 over 5 years. Always a different excuse. Commission delays, client disputes, market downturn. I gave him every cent because he was my son, and he looked me in the eye and said, I'll pay you back, Dad. I promise. The second envelope was labeled Ellie. Inside was a loan document. First, Mountain Federal Credit Union. Borrower, Eleanor Aldridge. Principal, $65,000. Interest rate, 14%. And attached to it, a payoff receipt dated August 2024. Paid in full by Margaret Ann Aldridge. I didn't understand until I read the journal entry from June 2023. Ellie came to dinner tonight. She looked thin. She's been eating rice and canned beans for months. 3 years ago, Kyle and Vanessa convinced her to invest $65,000 in a development project in Bend. Kyle showed her prospectus materials, renderings, projected returns. Vanessa notarized the documents. It was all fake. The project doesn't exist. Ellie took out a personal loan at 14% to fund it. She's been paying $1,700 a month for 3 years. She can barely afford her apartment. She tried to tell Robert at Thanksgiving 2 years ago. She said, "Dad, Kyle owes me money." Robert told her to stop being jealous of her brother's success. "I watched my daughter's face break. I'm paying off her loan tomorrow. She doesn't need to know it was me." I put the notebook down. I couldn't read anymore. Not yet. My phone buzzed. "Ellie. Dad. Where are you?" "At the credit union." Silence. Then, "Dad, I need to talk to you. About Kyle. And about Vanessa." My blood went cold. "I'm coming to you." "Where are you?" "Laurelhurst Park. The bench by the pond. Don't call Kyle. Don't answer if he calls." "Okay, Dad." Ellie sat on the bench with her coat pulled tight, watching the ducks. She looked smaller than I remembered. 3 years ago, she said without preamble. Kyle called me for lunch. Just us. He brought Vanessa. They pitched me on a real estate development in Bend. Luxury condos. Kyle showed me numbers, blueprints. Vanessa had all the legal documents. "They said you and Mom were considering investing too. We never heard about it." "I know that now." Her voice was flat. "I took out a $65,000 loan. For 3 years. I've been paying $1,700 a month on a teacher's salary. I sold my car. I moved to a studio apartment in Gresham. I stopped buying fresh food." She wiped her eyes. "Then 8 months ago, the credit union called. Said my loan was paid off. Anonymous payment. I didn't understand until yesterday. When I saw you with the lockbox. I saw Kyle try to take it. And I knew. Mom had been watching everything." I handed her the payoff receipt. She read it slowly. "Mom paid it." Her voice broke. "She knew I was drowning, and she just saved me. She loved you. Why didn't she tell me? Because telling you meant telling me. And she knew I wouldn't believe it." Ellie looked at me. Not with anger. Something worse. Understanding. "There's more," she said. She pulled out her phone. "After the funeral, I searched for Vanessa. Her real name is Vanessa Holt. She has a criminal record in 2 states. She showed me. Vanessa Holt, 34, arrested in Nevada in 2017 for wire fraud and identity theft. Arrested in Utah in 2019 for elder financial exploitation. Both times, she partnered with a romantic interest to target the partner's family, specifically elderly parents with assets. She served 14 months in Nevada, 18 months in Utah. By 2020, she was in Oregon. She met Kyle at a real estate conference in Bend, Ellie said. 6 months later, she was his fiancée. 6 months after that, they pitched me on the fake investment. I stared at Vanessa's mugshot. The same polished smile. The same confident posture. The same woman who'd sat in my living room at Christmas. Who'd called me Dad. Who'd hugged my dying wife and said, "I'll always take care of this family." She didn't target Kyle, Ellie said. She is Kyle's partner. They run this together. "Dad, Vanessa has done this to 3 other families that I've found. Reno, Salt Lake, now Portland. Same pattern. She finds a man with wealthy parents, gets close, and they drain the family dry." The 3rd envelope in the safe deposit box was labeled Evidence. Inside were printed emails between Kyle and Vanessa. Maggie had somehow accessed them. I didn't know how. The most recent was dated October 18th, 2025, 6 days before Maggie died. From Vanessa to Kyle. Subject line, timeline, she's getting worse. Hospice says weeks, maybe days. Once she's gone, we file the power of attorney immediately. The old man won't know what hit him. We transfer the properties first, then liquidate the accounts. Should clear $2 million minimum. Have the LLC paperwork ready. And make sure you get that lockbox. She showed Ruth something last month. If there's documentation, we need to destroy it before he finds it. I read it 3 times. Once she's gone, the old man won't know what hit him. My son. My golden child. The one I bragged about at every barbecue. The one I defended when Ellie tried to warn me. He was waiting for his mother to die so he could rob me. Detective Paul Mateo from the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Unit was a compact man with patient eyes and a quiet voice that made you want to tell him everything. Ellie and I sat across from him in a small interview room at the Central Precinct, the folder open on the table between us. "Your wife built this?" he said, paging through the journals. "For 5 years. This is better than most cases prosecutors bring me." He looked up. "Mr. Aldridge, I need to be direct. The emails suggest your son and his fiancée were waiting for your wife to die to execute their plan. I need to ask, are you confident about the cause of death?" The question punched the air out of my lungs. Pancreatic cancer. The hospice confirmed it. I'm going to request the medical examiner's full report anyway. Given what I'm seeing here, it's standard procedure. He made a note. What I can tell you today is that we have enough for multiple felony charges: forgery, identity theft, attempted fraud, elder financial exploitation, conspiracy. The emails alone establish premeditation. And if Vanessa Holt has priors in Nevada and Utah, the FBI will want this for interstate charges. He looked at me across the table. We'll arrest them both within 48 hours. But Mr. Aldridge, you'll have to testify. You'll have to stand in front of a courtroom and tell a jury that your son tried to steal from his dying mother. I know. Are you ready for that? I thought about Maggie's journals. 5 years of carrying this alone. 5 years of watching our family fracture and saying nothing because she knew I wouldn't believe her. She was ready. They arrested Kyle on a Thursday morning. I stood across the street from his townhouse in the Pearl District, the one I'd helped him with the down payment on. $40,000 3 years ago, 2 cruisers and an unmarked car. Detective Mateo knocked. Kyle opened the door in a bathrobe, coffee in hand. I watched his face change. Confusion, then calculation, then panic. When he saw me standing across the street, he shouted, "Dad! Dad! What is this? What did you tell them?" He kept shouting as they cuffed him. "This is a misunderstanding. Dad, call my lawyer. Dad, please." Vanessa was arrested 20 minutes later at a hotel downtown. She didn't shout. She didn't say a word. She just smiled at the officers like she'd been through this before. She had. Kyle's attorney was a sharp-faced man named Bradley Marsh, who drove a car that cost more than my house. He found me outside the precinct. "Mr. Aldridge, I represent your son. I want you to understand that this case is built on journals written by a deceased woman who cannot be cross-examined and the word of a daughter who has a financial grudge against her brother. Juries don't convict on feelings. They convict on evidence," I said, "and my wife left 5 years of it." He adjusted his tie. "We'll see, Mr. Aldridge. I hope you're prepared to destroy your own son in public." He drove away. I stood in the rain and thought about Maggie, about how she'd known this moment would come. She'd prepared for it. She'd prepared for everything. If you've made it this far with me, drop a 1 in the comments. I need to know someone heard what Maggie was trying to tell us. Before we continue, this story includes dramatized elements for educational and awareness purposes. If it's not your kind of content, no worries. But if you're still here, I want you to know that justice doesn't feel like victory. It feels like surgery without anesthesia. Necessary, brutal, and the only way to heal. The trial lasted 9 days. The prosecution, led by a woman named Sandra Cho, built the case methodically. The journals, the bank records, the security footage, the forged documents, the emails, and 3 witnesses I hadn't expected. Dorothy Yamamoto, 81 years old. She walked to the stand with a cane and spoke clearly. Kyle Aldridge came to my door in 2022. He said he was a real estate agent helping seniors sell properties at premium prices. I trusted him. He was polite, well-dressed. He told me my house was worth $600,000 and he could get me $750,000. I signed papers. He told me they were listing agreements. She paused. They were power of attorney forms. He transferred my home equity line to an account I didn't control. I lost $40,000 before my grandson noticed. The jury was still. Harold Anderson, 79. Retired longshoreman. I met Kyle through Vanessa. She volunteered at the VA. Sat with me during physical therapy. Sweet girl. Or so I thought. She introduced me to Kyle. Said he ran a veterans investment fund. I gave him $30,000. My wife's life insurance money. Never saw a penny of it back. I had to move in with my daughter in Beaverton. Grace Liu, 83. She cried on the stand. Vanessa was my home health aide for 4 months in 2023. She had access to my house, my mail, my bank statements. Kyle came twice. Pretended to be her supervisor. They convinced me to prepay for a home renovation, new bathroom, new kitchen. I paid $22,000. No one ever came to do any work. When I called Kyle, the number was disconnected. 3 people. $92,000 stolen from people who'd worked their entire lives. People who trusted my son because he smiled the right way and said the right things. Sandra Cho turned to me. The prosecution calls Robert Aldridge. I walked to the stand. Kyle was watching me from the defense table. His eyes were red. He mouthed, "Please, Dad." I looked at the jury. I told them everything. The deliberation took 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Both of them. Kyle, guilty of 7 counts of fraud, forgery, identity theft, and elder financial exploitation. Vanessa, guilty of 9 counts, including 2 from out of state that the federal prosecutor had folded in. At sentencing, Judge Karen Walsh looked down at my son and said, "Mr. Aldridge, you had every advantage. Education, family, opportunity, and you chose to prey on the people who trusted you most, your mother, your father, your sister, and 3 elderly victims who thought you were there to help them. This court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison with no possibility of early release. You will pay restitution in the amount of $2,418,000 to your father, $65,000 to your sister, and $92,000 to the 3 victims of your separate fraud schemes. This court has no sympathy for a man who waited for his mother to die so he could steal what she spent a lifetime building." Vanessa received 12 years. The judge noted her prior convictions and the escalating pattern of her crimes. "Miss Holt, you are not a victim of love. You are a professional predator, and this court will ensure you cannot harm another family for a very long time." Kyle looked back at me as they led him away. "I hope you're satisfied, Dad." I looked at my son. "I'm not satisfied." "But your mother is finally at peace." 18 months later, I stood in front of a small office on Division Street in Southeast Portland. The sign on the door read, "The Margaret Aldridge Foundation for Elder Protection." Ellie stood beside me with a pair of scissors. Behind us were Detective Mateo, Linda Torres from the credit union, Dorothy Yamamoto, Harold Anderson, Grace Liu, and about 30 people from the neighborhood. I cut the ribbon. People clapped. Inside, Ellie had painted the walls sage green, Maggie's favorite color. There were photos of Maggie on the wall. Maggie in her nursing scrubs. Maggie in the garden. Maggie holding Ellie as a baby. Maggie laughing. Alive. In the first year, we helped 112 elderly people across Oregon and Washington. Free legal aid, financial literacy workshops, a 24/7 hotline. We recovered $860,000 for victims of elder fraud. Dorothy volunteers at the front desk 3 days a week. Harold teaches a monthly workshop at the VA on recognizing financial scams. Grace sits on our board of advisors and brings cookies to every meeting. Every Sunday, Ellie and I drive to Riverview Cemetery. We bring white daisies, Maggie's favorite. We sit on the bench by her headstone and talk. Margaret, Anne, Aldridge, 1965 to 2025. She chose truth when silence was easier. Last month, I got a letter from Kyle, Federal Correctional Institution, Sheridan, Oregon. Dad, I know you won't forgive me. I don't deserve it. I'm taking classes, accounting. Like the irony isn't lost on me. I'm in counseling. I talk about Mom a lot, about what I did, about who I was. I read her journals. The prosecution gave me copies. There's an entry from 2023 where she wrote, "Kyle came for dinner tonight. He laughed at one of Robert's jokes, and for a moment, I saw the boy I raised. I keep hoping he'll come back, but the man sitting at my table isn't my son anymore. He's someone else wearing my son's face." That destroyed me, Dad, because she was right. I don't know how to come back from this, but I'm trying. Love, Kyle. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer, didn't throw it away, didn't answer it either. Ellie asked me last week if I'll ever forgive him. I said I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But I told her what I think Maggie would say. She'd say leave the door open. Not for his sake. For mine. I sat on the bench at Riverview last Sunday, looking at Maggie's headstone. We helped 112 people this year, Maggie, I said. 112 families that didn't lose everything the way we almost did. Your money is doing what you always did, taking care of people who can't take care of themselves. I put my hand on the cold granite. Thank you for the lockbox. Thank you for the journals. Thank you for loving me enough to protect me. Even when it meant letting me think you didn't love me at all. I wiped my eyes. Rest now, Maggie. We got them. Both of them. And your legacy is saving lives every single day. The truth doesn't just set you free. It asks something of you first. It asks you to look at what you've been refusing to see. It asks you to believe the quiet child over the loud one. It asks you to choose what's right over what's comfortable. Maggie chose the truth, and it cost her the last years of her life. She spent them cold and distant, carrying 5 years of secrets because she loved me too much to make me choose between my son and the truth. But in the end, her truth saved us all. It saved Ellie. It saved Dorothy, Harold, and Grace. And it saved every family that will walk through the doors of the Margaret Aldridge Foundation and find someone who believes them. If you see yourself in my mistakes, don't wait. Listen when someone tries to warn you. Watch the patterns, not the performance. And remember, the most dangerous people in your life don't look dangerous. They look like the people you love most. Drop a 2 in the comments if you made it to the end with me. And if you're watching late at night, thank you. This is exactly where Maggie would have wanted her story to land, with someone who needed to hear it.